What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Guys, one of the questions that are always my DMs is, Felix, how much Bitcoin should I be buying? And it's a tough question because while I would tell you, buy all you could, there really is no single one-size-fits-all answer, because when we talk about how much somebody should buy, we have to address that, number one, this is not financial advice. But number two, it really depends on what your situation in life is. So in order for you to determine how much Bitcoin should be in your portfolio, how much you should be allocating, I really created 4 variables that you need to address. And we'll address all of these in this video. So let's get right in. The first variable that you need to address before deciding how much Bitcoin should be in your portfolio is take a quick look at your income. Okay, so when we talk about income, there's really 2 parts to it. Number 1, how much income do you make? And number 2, how stable is it, right? So for example, somebody who perhaps is an attorney who makes $250,000 a year guaranteed every year, great. Perhaps if you live frugally, you're able to allocate $50,000 a year without taking any significant risk. Meanwhile, there's other people that perhaps only make $50,000 a year to start with, and they're using almost every single dime of that, right? So for that crowd, they could say, hey, maybe I can't put that much money towards Bitcoin, but rather it has to come from savings, okay? So based on your income and based on the stability of your income, you have to see how much can I really afford to take out of that without it affecting my day-to-day life. Because the ideal scenario is that you don't just buy once. You don't just buy today and that's it. But rather, you want to make it a habit to continuously contribute to your Bitcoin savings, so to say. And that is something that should come out of your income. So find that percentage. Perhaps it's 5% of your income. Perhaps it's 10% of your income. But whatever the number is, it should be something that's recurring, right? And if you find that, hey, there is literally no money left at the end of the month for me to invest in Bitcoin, then find ways to make some extra money, whether that's through side hustles or perhaps, flipping some of the stuff around your house. But the bottom line is you want to contribute to your Bitcoin savings every single month instead of making it this one-time thing. Number 2, your age. I find age to be one of the most important determinants of how much Bitcoin you should be holding. Because the truth is this, Bitcoin is most likely going to succeed in the long term. Now, the question is, how long is that long term? Meaning that if you are in your 60s or your 70s, there is a chance that you might not be able to see Bitcoin becoming the global reserve currency merely due to your age. Meanwhile, if you're in your 20s or 30s, I would highly recommend you, really take a deep look at cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, because over the span of your life, there is almost little to no chance that Bitcoin does not become a significant part of your life in the future. So if you find yourself in those younger generations, perhaps 20 to 30 years of age, then you should perhaps consider having a double-digit allocation to digital assets like Bitcoin. Whereas if you're older, it might make sense to allocate perhaps 1% to 5%. Again, none of this financial advice, but it's important to have the right expectations, because you need a long time horizon. Now, the only question remains, do you have a long time horizon? So again, for younger people, perhaps in their 20s with nothing to lose because you really haven't saved that much, you can risk 100%, 60%, 30% off your net worth, because ultimately, whatever you've saved so far is really only 1 to 2 years worth of savings, and you're going to make the majority of your savings in the coming years. Meanwhile, if you're a retiree that has saved their entire lives for the nest egg, then yes, don't bet it all on one single, idea, on one single play, right? So always ask yourself, how long did it take me to save this, and how long is it going to take me to save this again? Okay, so age plays a major role. Number 3, your net worth. So instead of just looking at income, and instead of just looking at age, we also, of course, have to address what's your net worth, right? Of course, somebody with $1 million net worth can put more into Bitcoin than somebody with $200 to their name, right? So depending on your net worth, how much you've amassed and how attached you are to that money, you have to decide how much you're going to allocate, right? There's plenty of college-age kids out there that perhaps have $5,000 to their name, and they say, you know what, if I lose it, I lose it. Meanwhile, there's family offices that have accumulated billions of dollars, and their number 1 priority is protect, and the second priority is growth. Clearly, there's different objectives. So identify, based on your net worth, based on your age, and based on your income, what is your objective, right? Are you currently still in a state where you are growing fast and you're able and willing to take high percentage risks because really the money you're playing with is only a small percentage of your overall wealth accumulated over the next 20, 30 years? Or are you already dealing with the sum of the last 30 years that you need to really be protective of and really make sure that before growth, you address hedge, right? So for some people, Bitcoin is a hedge where they allocate 1% to. For others, it's the high growth asset that they allocate nearly everything to. Fourth, and last but not least, is also your stomach for volatility. At the end of the day, I don't care about your income. I don't care about your net worth, and I don't care about how old you are. The only way you're going to succeed by investing in Bitcoin is if you have the stomach for volatility, because there's millionaires and billionaires that have put a lot of money to Bitcoin and they just couldn't handle the volatility and end up selling at a loss. Meanwhile, there's also people with, $200 to the name that couldn't handle the volatility and sold at a loss when really there was very little at stake. The bottom line is this: Bitcoin has one of the highest daily volatilities of any assets out there, right? We've even seen that on March 12th, for example, Bitcoin dropped around 60% in a single day. Just as much in the last bull run in 2017, Bitcoin dropped about 30 to 40%, 8 times within a bull run. So if you're not willing and comfortable seeing your assets drop 30 to 40%, heck, maybe even 60%, then you're not ready for it. So this sounds very counterintuitive because of course nobody invests to see their assets drop in price. But the nature of the beast is that Bitcoin is highly volatile. So it's important for you to look at the number after you've identified, okay, this is how much I make, this is my net worth, this is my, my event horizon, right? And you've chosen a number. Now cut that number in half and ask yourself if you're comfortable seeing that number decline to that price. If the answer is no, then you should reduce how much you're investing, because the day will come where Bitcoin does drop 30%, 40%, and you will be tested. You'll be tested whether or not you're holding, whether you're perhaps buying more, or whether you crack under the pressure and sell. The entire Bitcoin history is littered with people that, couldn't handle the pressure of the volatility and they sold at a big loss, or they just sold after they gave back all their gains, only to watch Bitcoin climb to new highs as it has been doing for the past 12 years. So it's up to you to decide. There is no clean answer to give to everybody, because at the end of the day, how much you can invest really depends on how much money you have. Right? To one person, $1,000 might be a lot. To another person, $1,000, how much they're going to pay in fees to purchase it. So it really just depends on your own personal finances. But what I'll always stress is that no amount is too small. One number I always like to bring up is that if you divide all the Bitcoin in the world by all the people living in the world, you end up right about 0.0028 Bitcoin per person. When Bitcoin was trading at $10,000, we're talking about $28. For $28, you can secure as much Bitcoin as is possible to be held by every single person on earth. So even if you say, hey, I can only put $100 towards Bitcoin, great, do it. If you say, hey, you know what? I can only save $50 a month, do it. Start dollar cost averaging $50 a month towards Bitcoin. No number's too small, genuinely speaking. So it's just important for you to decide based on your personal finances, based on your income, based on your age, based on your net worth, and for your stomach for volatility, find that number, and then instead of doing it one time, making it a life and death decision where you have to put everything in right now, start dollar cost averaging. Start allocating every single week, every single month, and simply start making it a habit that you allocate towards this asset. Because just as a comment is the question, how much should I buy and when should I buy? Is, Felix, when should I sell? And the truth is, if you didn't worry about selling for once, but rather worried about accumulating and building a position over the past 12 years, it wouldn't have mattered when you sold, right? Because even right now, where Bitcoin is trading at $13,000, that is a price that was previously considered an extreme high, right? So if you just said, hey, I didn't need to sell at 20,000, I didn't need to sell at 15,000, but rather every single month, whether the Bitcoin price was at $1,000, at $15,000, $20,000, $5,000, $3,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, you would have simply kept growing and growing your stash. Because at the end of the day, we're still so early where any price in this range is still cheap compared to what it could be one day. So I just really recommend you taking a close look at your finances, seeing whether you believe in Bitcoin long-term. And if you do believe in Bitcoin long-term and you taking a close look at your finances, identify how much could you contribute on a weekly or monthly basis so that you can create this nest egg of what is most likely going to be the hardest asset the world has ever seen. So I will leave you with that. Just dive on in, look at your income, your net worth, your age, your stomach volatility, meaning how much can you really afford to lose, right? And then stop overthinking it and rather take the dive in. Start small. Start very, very small where really there's no risk, right? Some people love to spend $100 on a dinner on the weekend. Meanwhile, they're not comfortable enough to start with $100 in Bitcoin, right? Make it so small where there's truly no financial risk to you and simply take the leap so that way you have some skin in the game and really start researching it. Because truthfully, that's how most of us started. Most people start in Bitcoin that are now perhaps, even working in the industry by simply making a small investment. And then all of a sudden, it really tickles their interest where they say, hey, I want to read more about this. I want to watch some more videos about this. I'm going to research this more. And very quickly, you'll fall down the rabbit hole. So start small, check out how much is smart for you to allocate, and then start allocating. Because the truth is, everybody allocates at the end. But generally, they wait until the market is topping out. So you might as well start now. With that, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about digital assets, check out Crypto Academy. We actually just created a free course that tells you all about DeFi, right? And you can find it at cryptoacademy.us/DeFi, where we will give you everything from why it matters, how it works, how to cruise value, and who are the biggest players. With that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.